Marvel is well positioned to dominate the market in the months ahead with Jonathan Hickman's X-Men, Absolute Carnage, Amazing Spider-Man, Immortal Hulk, and a host of 80th anniversary specials. July's comic book sales numbers are in, and once again, it's a bit of a mixed bag. Overall, July comic sales outpaced 2018, but not by as large a margin as you would expect with an extra shipping week. Graphic novel sales are up huge compared to last July, which were very soft. Marvel Comics had a terrific month and achieved a feat not seen since 2001, occupying the number 1 and 2 sales slots with X-Men titles. Marvel's stranglehold on the market share continues midway through 2019. DC released 36 new comic books compared to last month, but didn't see much sales return, if any, on market investment. The indie scene lost one of its most beloved titles with July's The Walking Dead 193 finale. I'm going to cover a report on strategic market trends and give my analysis first, then I'm going to dig into July's comic sales number in finer details. I'm then going to provide Comic-Con's July comic sales summary before I look into trends for DC Comics' Naomi and Aquaman, two series moving in vastly different directions. Without further ado, let's talk about July's comic and graphic novel sales. ICV2.com reports, despite an extra week in July 2019 compared to July 2018, comics and graphic novel sales to comic stores were only up 6.91%, according to information released by Diamond Comic Distributors. And with 31 weeks to the end of July 2019 versus 30 weeks to the end of July 2018, or 3% more weeks, sales were up 0.63% year to date. Comic sales were up 4.99% over July 2018, and graphic novel sales were up 12.83%, a reversal of recent trends which have comics outperforming graphic novels. Year-to-date, comic sales are now up 0.97%, while graphic novel sales are down 0.25%. Part of the reason for comics' lackluster year-over-year performance may have been the comparison month. July 2018 was an exceptionally strong month, with comic sales up 17.37% over sales in July 2017. Conversely, graphic novel sales in July 2018 were very weak, down 9.11% the previous year. In market share, Marvel Comics maintained its double-digit lead over DC Comics. Other top 10 publishers' shares were also fairly typical except for Dynamite Entertainment, which leaped ahead of Boom Studios to the number 6 slot. Buoyed by Jonathan Hickman's long-anticipated X-Men relaunch, Marvel Comics' July sales are up 13% compared to 2018, which featured Nick Spencer's Amazing Spider-Man number 1, and 8% total year-to-date. They produced 118 more comics this year than last, but only one more in July, despite an extra shipping week. Marvel's market domination isn't likely to be challenged anytime soon. The launch of Hickman's X-Men, August's highly anticipated Absolute Carnage, and the two best-selling ongoing series in the industry, Amazing Spider-Man and Immortal Hulk, has Marvel in an envious position moving forward. Despite having the top-selling graphic novel, Brian Azzarello's The Joker, DC Comics' dollar sales are down versus July 2018, which featured the release of Batman 50. DC's new releases jumped from 50 in June to 86 in July, its most new comic since January, indicating they may be changing course after announcing austerity initiatives due to an industry-wide shortage of quality art talent. Thus far, DC Comics has published 92 fewer new comics and 18 fewer graphic novels in 2019 versus 2018. Newsarama is reporting the start of Jonathan Hickman's reinvention of Marvel's X-Men franchise helped comic book sales in July post positive gains over the same month last year, and now direct market sales for 2019 are just a fraction over 2018's total through July. According to figures released by Diamond Comic Distributors Friday morning, Hickman's House of X number 1 and Powers of 10 number 1 were the two best-selling comic book titles of July, followed by Amazing Spider-Man 25, 3 of 5 Marvel titles in the top 10 in terms of units shipped. Robert Kirkman's The Walking Dead 193, the surprise final issue of the long-running Image Comics series, ranked number 4 in units. DC had the remaining 4 titles in the units top 10, all Batman titles, including Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo's Batman Last Night on Earth number 2 at number 5. Brian Azzarello and Lee Bermejo's The Joker, from DC's Black Label imprint, was July's best-selling graphic novel by units. So DC Comics released cardstock variants for an additional $1 on cover price for many titles in July, throwing some sales numbers off. On the surface, it looks like Batman 75, the first issue of City of Bane, shipped only 70,000 units, a drop of 5,000 from issue 74, but DC shipped 30,000 additional units of the cardstock variant, meaning Batman 75 actually shipped over 100,000 issues total, its best number since late 2018. DC was paced by miniseries Deceased, shipping 130,000 total issues, counting cardstock variants. Batman Last Night on Earth number 2, Batman 75, Batman Curse of the White Knight number 1, and The Batman Who Laughs number 7 were all in the top 10 comics by unit shipped for July. 7 of DC Comics' top 9 comics shipped are Batman titles. They better hope Batman fatigue never sets in. DC Comics released 5 new number 1 issues, not counting annuals. Batman Curse of the White Knight was the third best-selling debut issue behind Hickman's X-Men books. Lois Lane was the only other number 1 to ship over 40,000 issues. Brian Michael Bendis' Event Leviathan dropped from an already soft 70,000 opening to a depressing 53,000 units shipped. DC had to be expecting a much better performance from one of their perceived A-list talents. DC also began releasing the original Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman stories from their Walmart exclusive 100-page giants in July. Bendis' Batman universe opened with respectable 36,000 unit sales, while Tom King's Superman Up in the Sky moved 28,000 floppies. DC better hope You're the Villain, led by Joshua Williamson's Batman Superman, hits like Dark Knight's Metal. Otherwise, they don't really have much new of note releasing in the future. For the first time since 2001, 2 X-Men titles were the top-selling comics in the industry. This was once a very regular occurrence. Jonathan Hickman's new direction has the entire comic book fandom buzzing. This is the most excitement I've witnessed in the comic book community since I started my channel. Marvel also placed Amazing Spider-Man 25 and Black Cat number 2, showing surprising staying power in the top 10 comic units shipped. Between Hickman's X-Men, Amazing Spider-Man, Immortal Hulk, and possibly Black Cat, Marvel has a tremendous amount of momentum. They also feature a diverse array of titles and characters in their upper crust, a stark contrast from DC Comics' complete reliance on Batman and event books. Marvel, also in stark contrast to DC, published 22 new number 1s, not counting annuals and reprints. Several were overshipped, ranging from slightly, such as Arrow, to 2 or 3 times orders like Invisible Woman and Loki. Marvel has to be disappointed by the performance of Valkyrie Jane Thor number 1. They invested a heavy amount of real estate in War of the Realms to launch the title, and it only shipped 42,000 issues, and even that was stuffed by some overships. Some sales numbers of note include Tony Stark Iron Man shipping an anemic 30,000, Black Panther struggling at 23,000 units moved, and Ironheart and Shuri moving indie-like numbers at 10,000 each. Marvel Comics could really boost sales by moving on from the old guard of Dan Slott and Mark Waid and failed experiments like Ta-Nehisi Coates, Ironheart and Shuri, among others. Marvel's August features the start of Donny Cates' Absolute Carnage event and a number of 80th anniversary specials, including the fake milestone Marvel Comics 1000. The way Marvel is positioned at the top right now, Marvel Comics Fake 1000 can flop, and they'll still dominate. And despite my feelings for the book, I'm pretty sure it's going to move pretty well. Unfortunately. Robert Kirkman's Image Comics Skybound imprint moved huge numbers for the Walking Dead finale. 111 units shipped was good for 5th place in the month of July. Image Comics needs Saga to return soon and to develop a new hit series, Die, I'm Rootin' For You, to help offset the loss of the long-standing zombie horror series. Dynamite Entertainment's Vampirella number 1 fell short of the reported 130,000 number thrown around during the time of release. In total, Vampy moved 90,000 copies, including overseas buyers. The title was also returnable, so it's likely a decent amount were sent back as well. Still, that's a huge debut for any comic title, especially from Dynamite. Next, let's see what insight Comic-Con analyst John Jackson Miller also provided regarding July comic book sales. Value judgments are tough to avoid in describing economic activity. One person's stable is another person's stagnant. Much depends on expectations. If you think comic stores should be proliferating like sandwich shops, then flat is a bad word. If you think over-fast growth often leads to chaos, steady sounds just fine. The Comic-Con position is often seen as defaulting towards the positive, but it's a bit more nuanced than that. For the last 20 years, monthly periodic sales in comic shops have oscillated around a mean of about 7 million copies a month, all while the dollar volume of the comic markets overall has nearly tripled thanks to graphic novels collecting those monthly comics. If you believe that a desirable level of comic sales is whatever allows direct market stores to subsidize the serialization of enough stories to keep the bookshelves full, then sales volume has clearly hit that level most years, and unchanged is very much stable. Inherent in that is the strong belief that serialization is not just a necessary part of the publisher's toolkit, but a valuable one. Monthly comics amortize as they advertise and feed a secondary market, which many retailers also realize revenue from. Before I sign off, I want to talk about a couple series moving in opposite directions. If you follow the channel, you know I'm not a fan of Brian Michael Bendis or his influence at DC Comics. A handful of new talents arrived since Bendis jumped ship, and they have his fingerprints all over him. Among them is somewhat controversial Kelly Sue DeConnick. If you've never watched her infamous Don't Buy My Comic Book interview on YouTube, you should check it out. Actually, I'll link it in the video description. It's the kind of display that leaves a lasting impression with viewers. It was a terrible look on her part, and in fairness, I believe she's expressed a level of regret over how she came off in the interview. When she arrived at DC, she was given the keys to Aquaman. She couldn't have been put in a more enviable position. Warner Brothers just released a $1 billion grossing live-action Aquaman adaptation. Previous writer Dan Abnett had it shipping a healthy 38,000 copies, 42 issues into his run, and the book was right around the corner from a notable issue 50 milestone. As soon as Kelly Sue, who specifically told people not to buy her books, took the reins to Aquaman, orders dropped 8,000 to 30,000. Aquaman sales are trending down ever since. In July, issue 50 arrived with a cardstock variant that boosted Batman orders by 33% and the return of Aquaman's principal villain, Black Manta. Aquaman 50 saw a staggering 12% increase in sales from the previous issue. Needless to say, DeConnick's time on Aquaman has been less than fruitful. One ponders how far DC Comics brass take this before owning their mistake and moving what should be a very important character onto a less divisive, more accomplished superhero writer. Alright, I know I rail on Brian Michael Bendis and his terrible effects on DC Comics and their future a lot. See also 2 minutes ago. But today, I'm going to throw a bit of praise his way. The big two have a very difficult time launching new characters successfully in the current market. So it comes as a bit of a surprise just how well Brian Bendis' Naomi is faring under the Wonder Comics imprint. The 25,000 issues Naomi was shipped on number 1 appear to spell doom for the new character and title from day one. Issue 2 saw a 40% drop in sales, very typical in today's market. But lately, the series has gained a ton of momentum, shipping 35,000 issues in July. What's the reason for this? While I don't think the book is very good, the art from Jamal Campbell is excellent. I mean shockingly good. But that's not really what's causing this spike in sales. The first print run of issue 1 is extremely small, even by today's standard for a Big 2 character debut. Recently, prices for the book are soaring on the collector's market. That, combined with a general increase in reader interest, has caused shops to start ordering more robustly. Naomi now has as much momentum as any new character in the industry. It's up to Bendis, his creative team, and DC editorial to build on this momentum and deliver quality stories and keep growing Naomi's sales numbers. As much as I like to bag on Bendis, kudos to him and the art team led by Jamal Campbell. The industry needs more new characters that resonate with readers. That wraps up my analysis of July's comic industry sales. Comic book and graphic novel sales are now ever so slightly in the green for 2019. Marvel is well positioned to dominate the market in the months ahead with Jonathan Hickman's X-Men, Absolute Carnage, Amazing Spider-Man, Immortal Hulk, and a host of 80th anniversary specials. DC Comics needs Year of the Villain to hit with readers to try and keep pace. I don't see it happening, but I definitely could be wrong. Please join me for tomorrow's Marvel Comics October solicitations analysis, as well as in about a month when I break down August's comic industry sales. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.